Stop it, Leslie. I've lowered the tone already. Ah, it's what I do. Hello lovelies, welcome to the July 2021 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name's Leslie and this is a podcast about knitting, spinning, crochet, general yarn stuff, recorded on the south coast of England. Hello, welcome. Whether you're a new viewer or you've been here a long time, thank you, you're very welcome and I'm just grateful to have you here, so hello. How are we all? I hope everyone's okay. I know there's been some very weird weather. We're having a warm one at the moment. And I'm of an age where I have a lot of warm ones, so bear with me. This is called the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast, despite the fact that I have a lot of yarn, because I rarely have enough to make an entire garment in the same colour. So I'm often adding in bits of stripes, blocks, fades, just to make something with what I have. And I personally like the challenge of shopping from stash and thinking, what have I got that will go together? The thought of going and buying a sweater quantity of yarn doesn't really excite me as much as looking at 2 or 3 different skeins of different colours. So we all have our foibles. That one's mine. This is a monthly podcast. I record vlog style, so I'll be recording throughout the month. And you see me in different places, sometimes in the car, sometimes in different rooms in the house, particularly because we've got a sunny day. The sun is very much that side of the house in the morning and this side in the afternoon. So we have to kind of work the house to get the more comfortable viewing position. And that applies summer and winter, because sometimes you want a bit of sunshine, sometimes it's a bit too much. So, oh, I'm waffling. Already? That's not bad, is it? I'm running a year-long knit-along, make-along rather, with the fabulous and gorgeous Kellyanne of Yarn Tales by the Sea. And it's an accessory mal. So any accessory for the person, hats, scarves, socks, anything. We've kind of used the Ravelry categories on this, so if it fits in that accessory category, it's eligible for the mal. Like I say, it's a year-long make-along and we draw quarterly. So at the end of each quarter we draw for 2 prizes. These are announced on the podcast and we have threads on Ravelry. Now I know that not everyone is able to access Ravelry, so if you would like to enter but you are unable to use Ravelry, please email me on notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com and I will enter your post into the thread on your behalf. So, yeah, so accessories, that's it really, that's as tough as it gets. Multiple dipping is allowed and encouraged, so please do enter to both Kellyanne's threads and mine, and any other make-alongs that are going on. I know Barbara from Flame and Fibre has her Ode to Joy mal, so anything you make that brings you joy, you're welcome to post on there. And from No Excuses podcast is doing a seasonal mal, so if you've got something that at the moment very summery, by all means, if you're putting it in there, include it in ours. We only ask that you're a member of our groups on Ravelry and subscribers to the podcast. So that's it. Yeah, so quarterly draws, 2 threads. Finished object thread wins a physical prize. So that would be a skein of yarn or a bag or something crafty and wonderful. And the chatter thread wins a pattern prize up to a value of $10 US. By all means, if you have a finished object, also put it in the chatter, because the finished object thread is no chatter, so it's just for you to put it on there with as much description as you like, but there isn't the capacity for people to respond. If you also put it on the chatter thread, people can tell you how wonderful it is, ask you questions, all sorts of gorgeousness. So those are the make-alongs. Yep, I think that's that. This is all the admin. Oh, very easily done. I like to keep things simple. I'm a simple soul. I haven't got a lot in the ways of finished objects this month, or at least the stuff I've got is kind of small or reworking. I've got a sweater that I'm finishing off for the second time, which I'll show you later. But I did have in the car a granny square blanket that I was just making when I was sitting in the car waiting for appointments, and this will go to the local cat shelter when I can take stuff round, which may be soon as things are opening up in England, but we'll see. So it's just made of acrylic, very simple granny square, traditional granny square blanket. Actually, these colours, it could be a baby blanket as well because they're soft pastels. Not that you have to have soft pastels for a baby, but I know a lot of people like that. But this will go to the cat's home, so yay! Talking of granny squares, I've also done a couple of little squares here. Now, if you follow Aquila the Hun Lefty Knitter podcast, or her husband Johnny Bow, and his Johnny Bow Dies episodes are also on Aquila's channel, you may know that Aquila was making a project, and she was asking people to guess what it was because it was an unusual project. Go and check out her podcast to find out what it was. And someone suggested that it was a pair of patchwork trousers, breeches, pants, whatever you call them, for her husband. He is well up for this. He is very keen on this idea. And so the suggestion has been made that people might like to make small granny squares, which will be assembled into said pair of trews, trousers, plus fours, again, choose your word, as is appropriate. And so I messaged and said, any problem with them coming across the pond? And Aquila said, well, I'm hoping to assemble them at a certain time. I said, well, look, I'm going to send them. We're reliant on leaving me and the USPS, and, you know, they've got to get from the UK to Maryland, so we're in the hands of others. But I said, if they don't get there in time, I guess he's going to have a pocket, because I've made him a couple of squares. Now, I know some folks have been doing variations on the granny square theme, different squares. I'm keeping it kind of old school from the old country, but I will put these in the post, and if they can make it into Johnny Bow's breeches, trousers, pants, they are going to be seriously warm to wear. I know he wants them for a festival, I can't remember when it is, but I really hope it's a chilly day because they are going to be very warm to wear. You're going to be very sweaty in some unfortunate places, John. So but it's a bit of fun. Judging by what I've seen on Instagram, I think that they're going to have far more squares than they need. So maybe Aquila will have a matching pair. Who knows? I'm not putting ideas in your head. No, no, no. Part of this podcast is my no-buy yarn attempt, because I bought some yarn last year in the pandemic. I was trying to support dyers who were struggling because the shows and that they normally went to weren't happening. But I'm back on the no-buy wagon this year. But other people buy me yarn, and that's lovely and very kind of them, and I'm very appreciative. And that has happened this month. My lovely friend Belinda, who watches this, although she's not a knitter, so thank you. Thank you. Saw her recently. She and another friend came to the town where I live, and prior to that she'd been to the Lake District and picked up some local, seriously fabulous yarn. So here are 2 balls of Herdwick wool. And I can say wool because they're from sheep and everything. From Crookabeck Herdwicks. Oh, it's not going to focus. Her husband will laugh at that because he's a photographer and he knows about these things. Yes, Crookabeck Herdwicks, who are from Patterdale in Cumbria. And that makes me think of my previous dog, Fudge. We used to have a Patterdale Terrier, and she was a sweetheart. She used to bark at himself every time he came home, which is one of the reasons why I loved her. Yes, so 2 balls of yarn. These are Aran weight yarn, 100 grams each. Doesn't give a meterage, don't care. They are rustic. I think they'd make great hats. They're not something you'd want. You wouldn't want these in your trousers, Johnny Bow. I can tell you that for nothing. But they are fabulous yarn. She says the difference in colour comes from the age of the sheep. This is what she was told. Now, Herdwick sheep are a breed that was known to me, nothing to do with wool, fibre yarn or anything like that. Beatrix Potter. When Beatrix Potter, she of Peter Rabbit fame, moved to Cumbria, she bought Hilltop Farm and helped to save the Herdwick sheep breed. So I always associate these sheep with her. But thank you, Belinda, for these fabulous yarns. They are very sheepy. They have a slightly different texture actually, which makes sense of the different age. I'll stop doing that, that looks very odd. And fabulous yarns. Thank you very much to the lovely Belinda who bought them, and I shall look forward to using them. Thank you. Okay, so I've just drawn the curtains, got my dummy out, and got my camera out. The neighbours will start to talk if they've noticed. But I digress. Who's your mate, Les? This is Enid. Enid and I go back a long way. Yes, I mentioned in the previous bit that I had reworked a cardigan. And it was a cardigan from a couple of years ago that I had been inspired by a design, inspired by one aspect of a design, and completely remade it. So this was the panel jacket by Carol Lapin, I don't know. And I'll put a photograph in here of the original. I liked the concept of that, but wanted to do things slightly differently. And so I'll show you a photograph of what I made at the time. The theory was relatively sound. The practice wasn't. I had initially, well, hello. I had initially thought about making a kind of very open jacket. So it wasn't edge to edge because it wouldn't meet in the middle, but it was just kind of open. That was fine up to a point. This is a very square jacket. There's no shoulder shaping or anything like that. And I am very round backed and shouldered, and so it really didn't sit well on me. I don't have any photographs of me wearing it at the time, or at least if I did, I don't now. And Edith carried it off because, what can I tell you? She's a model. Sorry. I'm just so sorry. But on me, it didn't feel right. I didn't like the way it looked. So I decided to do nothing for 2 years because I couldn't work out what to do. And you know what it's like when you've finished a project, particularly a sweater, you know, a garment-sized project. There's a strong chance that you're fairly sick of the colour and the whole thing by the time you've finished it. So you just don't want to go near it again. Earlier this year, I decided to revisit some projects that weren't working. This was an idea I'd been kind of mulling over, and then, excuse me, inspired by one of my knitting heroes, Mars, of the HeyBrownBerry podcast. She had also been thinking in a similar way, and she had a sweater that she shortened the sleeves, you know, unpicked, reworked the cuff and so forth. I, a couple of months ago, reworked the sleeves of a cotton hoodie that I'd made previously. The sleeves were very wide and baggy, and so I tapered them and made them more fitted, which suits the way that I like things to be. So that also made me think we need to look at the panel jacket layers. So I unpicked the previous border. I made a slight alteration. I'm going to try and turn Enid round, but she's a bit stiffer in the shoulder. Now this panel here, you can possibly see there's a change of colour. If I put it there, you've got a line here. Basically I'd run out of this yarn, and I had used some of the grey boucle which you've seen in a lot of my projects, because there was a very large cone of it, and it kind of did okay, but it did flare out a little because the tension was very different. So I thought, as I'm reworking this, I will rework that as well. So unpicked the boucle bit, picked up the stitches and just knitted up to the required length. I then made, sorry, I seem to be grabbing Enid in very inappropriate fashion. I then made another 2 panels. So that was in this pink and grey. This is Araucania Ranco sock yarn. So I made 2 panels, attached those. It's a crochet attachment. I still wanted this shawl collar effect. So I then picked up, I did a couple of rows in the dark grey that I've been using for all of the seams to give that some consistency. And then I decided I'm going to slide you forward slightly, or tip you forward slightly. No, I'm not. Come on then, there we go. Now what I decided to do was to give a kind of V effect, a V-neck effect. And so I started working short rows on this panel. And I did both sides, and then it occurred to me that my V-neck was starting here, and my neck starts here. So I did another panel here in the grey. I don't know why I didn't just do it. Oh, I know why. I'd already picked up and done a couple of rows in this darker grey. Now this is a generic 4-ply fingering that I received as part of some stash I was given. I'd already done a few rows, so I thought, well, I'll just do another panel here echoing that shape. So they weren't short rows, it was kind of staggered rows, so 2 stitches longer here, 2 stitches shorter there, to give me the V starting from the neck point rather than here. So I'm calling it a design feature, because I call many mistakes a design feature. But it worked. So after I'd matched up that shorter panel and taken it up to the neckline, the shoulder line, I then just carried on working straight to create this shawl collar. And then for a bit of interest, well, I say for a bit of interest, it started off, my plan was to make this a very big shawl collar, and I would just use up what I had left. So I then went on to the Araucania and carried on with that. And my idea was I was going to carry on with that and then finish with the dark grey. I have a little bit of that left. But I was getting to the point where I thought, actually, well, 2 things were at play. Firstly, I was getting sick of knitting it. It felt like it was taking longer to do this alteration than it did to do the original sweater, which I know is nonsense, but that was how it felt. So I was getting a bit sick of it, but I always worry that I'm then looking for excuses to finish it. So I decided to refer to my style guru himself. Now, if you saw his wardrobe, you would question my choice on that. But he's very good at knitted stuff. He's very good at putting colours together and working out, just giving me a common sense view on things. So although he's not interested remotely in fashion and clothes, and, you know, they are just things to be comfortable in, he is very good when I have questions. So I put the thing onto a long cable so that I could try it on. Tried it on, said, how much more do you think? He said, I think you're nearly there. I thought, that's why I love you. So I cast off. So that pink, although it wasn't my initial plan to have it as the final colour, I think it does give a nice edge, because I think I had about 3 or 4 rows, so just a ridge or 2 of it, and then the cast off. So this is now a much better fitting sweater. The reason why Enid's wearing it and I'm not is because of the sunny weather. But it is a sweater, a jacket that fits an awful lot better than it did before. As I have some yarn left over, I did wonder about the possibility of pockets. That's still an option, but I haven't decided on that. Oh, sorry, I bashed you in the boob. I do apologise. So yes, it's a much better fitting jacket than it was, and one that I'll actually use now, because that was the thing. This was sitting in a cupboard unused because I didn't like the way that it fitted, but a lot of time had gone into it. So for the sake of a few more hours, I've now got something that I can use and will use, because I think this would be okay to wear for some of my work things when I go to visit families. I conduct funerals, so it means I go in and visit families, and I tend not to wear a very formal suit, because when you're going into someone's home, sometimes they're in their like dressing gowns, you know, I mean, people are in the throes of horrible stuff. So you don't want to go in looking like you're a tax inspector or a social worker. Nothing wrong with either of these professions, but not the image I'm trying to portray when I'm trying to build up rapport with people. So if they're very casual, I'm quite happy to be in sort of softer knitted things rather than shoulder padded jackets. So I think this would be smart enough to do that. And I'm very pleased. So although I haven't got mahoosive finished objects this month thus far, I have refinished something and made it usable. Charles. Hello lovelies. Now this next section is going to be a bit stream of consciousness, I think, as if the rest isn't, because I'm going to go from one thing to another to another. So I'm going to start off with some spinning. And this, I feel like I hadn't done any spinning for a while. This had been on the wheel for a little while and I've just been kind of busy with other things, but it is from Witchcraftylady, of course. And it's her peacock colourway. Now this is coming up a little bluer. It's more of a sort of, this is showing up better. It's got kind of dark greens, dark teals, kind of into jade green type of colours in it, as well as flashes of lilac and purple. What I'm going to do is put a picture here of the original Fibre picture from Witchcraftylady's Etsy shop, so you can see the colours of the Fibre originally. And this is what I have spun. So I have here, it's a 2-ply, I've got 19 wraps per inch, so that's come out quite fine. 278 metres for just over 100 grams, so it has come out as a sort of light fingering sort of weight. I'm very pleased with it. It's feeling quite balanced. I'm happy with how it's turned out. And I was thinking about my spinning, because in some of my crafts I like to do new things and try new techniques, and in others I know there's a whole world out there, but I just want to keep on doing what I'm doing. And the spinning, this is kind of where I'm at with it at the moment. So while I could try different techniques, and I have books to read about different fibre types and different breeds of sheep or different plant types, the spinning for me, it's kind of my happy place. It's my, I know what I'm doing when I do this one thing, so I'm going to do this. And that kind of works for me. And it actually came, it kind of cemented in my head, thanks to something that Barbara from the Flame and Fibre podcast and her daily Corona vlog was saying, because she had a while where she lost her knitting mojo, and in the end she decided to cast on another boxy. And she's made several of these, some as gifts, some for herself. And she said, I don't need another boxy, but I need to make another boxy. And that's kind of where I am with my spinning, I think. I don't need more yarn. And I certainly don't necessarily need another light fingering weight 2-ply yarn, but the creative process of making this is what I need right now. And some of my knitting is sometimes like that I'll make something that's very straightforward to make, because actually that's what I need right now. And then other times want to be more complicated and try new techniques and something a bit sort of fussier. So thank you, Barbara, for that insight, because when you said it, it really resonated with me, so thank you for that. And this is some yarn. Because I am now I'm spinning very fine singles. Yes, I'm spinning very fine singles. So this might mean I have to go to 3-plying my yarn rather than 2-plying it to get a slightly thicker yarn. But we'll see. You know, there can be some variation even when you're keeping it simple. So this is it. Did I say it was Superwash Wensleydale? I can't remember, but it is. And there we go. Now, talking of Witchcraftylady, which I often am, I follow her on Instagram, and she was saying that she's changing some of the focus of her shop. She's going to do more sewing and certainly less yarn dyeing. I think she's still going to dye fibre, but less yarn dyeing. And so was having a bit of a sale. And for UK customers, she was also including other goodies in the package when you ordered from her. So it'd be rude not to, really, wouldn't it? So I have ordered some fibre and I have goodies as well. And bless her, she's so generous. I don't know how much is left in the shop. I will put the link down below. And certainly the things that Almas is sewing are in there, so you can see the lovely things she's making. So I ordered kind of bits and pieces. There was, at the time, another braid of this. And I was tempted, but I decided against it. What I have ordered... Oh, that was almost a sentence, wasn't it? So we have here some Poledale lap waist. So bits and pieces of Poledale in greens, bits of red, bits of greys. Lou from our knitting group suggested that this was camo colours. So I can make myself a little camouflage something or other. That could be fun. That could be fun. I ordered a couple of fairly plain coloured braids, very similarly coloured braids. They're both greys. So we have here bluff grey fibre, and we have here Darwin grey cormo. And I thought that these might work quite nicely if I make some rolags. So rather than spinning these up on their own, I'll probably blend them with other colours and make some rolags. But of course, we're not frightened of colour on this podcast. We rather embrace the colour. And we certainly embrace the pansy. So this is Superwash Merino. And it's the pansy colourway. So you can see we've got purples on a white base with flashes of these gorgeous orange reds. That's almost kind of koi carp colour, isn't it? That is fabulous. So I've got to decide how I want to split this fibre, because depending on how I want to split it will then depend on how the colours look. And this is the beauty of spinning. So although I'm doing pretty much all the same thing, you still have choices, because I could have long strands of orange in the singles, or I could have little bits of orange that then pop through, or I don't know what I'm going to do, but whatever I'm going to do, it's going to be soft and I'm going to have fun. So these were the things that I ordered, and then Almas, who is wonderful, added in some bits. When I say some bits, I mean she was incredibly generous. So we have here alpaca merino silk yak waist. So we've got a bag of this, and you may remember from a month or two ago I had some silk waist from Witchcraftylady. This is this colour, this sort of undyed colour. and I've plied that with some rainbow rolags that I got from Needle and Thread. And I have started, although I don't think I've shown it to you yet, the shawl from Mars of HeyBrownBerry, and the name has escaped me, so I shall put it on screen. Oh, don't you hate it when that happens? So yes, ritual shawl, that's the chap, ritual shawl. Sorry Mars, just went blank. Yes, so I've already used some of this and it was very nice to spin, so I've now got some more, so thank you very much. And she put some yarn in as well. So I've got 5 balls of this gorgeous Warth Mill Yarns Saddleworth. And it's a fabulous marled yarn, but it also has flecks of colour in it. If I take the label off a bit, you see you've got a bit of red there. There are only a few of them and they're subtle, but they're just enough to give a little pop. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. It doesn't say the yardage on the ball band, but I had a quick look online and I think it's 200 and something meters per 100 grams, so kind of DK weight. I don't know what's going to happen to this, but it will make friends in my stash for a while until I find a good project for it. So yes, I have acquired yarn without intending to. This is my sorry not sorry face, can you tell? And I have acquired fibre, most of which I intended to, but very generously given others as well. So, and it's all such soft, lovely stuff. I mean, this is, to repeat, alpaca, merino, silk, yak. Soft as a puppy's underbelly. I tell you, this is just going to be so gorgeous. And talking of fibre, I did warn you about the stream of consciousness thing. Coral has been in touch, and Coral has started dyeing fibre. I will link in the notes below Coral's Fibre Arts. If I've got that right, I will put the name here. And she has very kindly offered me some fibre, which I will take her up on that offer, and I will show you that next month. But if you're in the market for fibre, she has some very pretty colours. And like I say, I'll put the link in the notes below, and go and have a look at her online shop because it is drool worthy. She has fibre braid, she has rolags, and there are also some stitch markers there which are all very pretty and colourful. So seek her out and you will find pretty things on your screen. So yes, that is my adventures in fibre and fluff and spinning for this month. More to come next month. Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry, I'm a grown woman. I should behave better. Yeah, yeah, right. Hello, lovelies. I have a finished object. I said I thought I might be finished, and I finished it yesterday. It is a sweater, which hasn't been blocked. So the neckline looks a bit odd at the moment. It probably won't be blocked. It'll be washed and I'll wear it and that's it. But this is a sweater, as you can see. Now we've still got quite warm weather here, so I'm not going to put it on, or I shall fade away like a delicate flower. But I will put some pictures here of me wearing it. But what is this sweater, I hear you cry in anticipation and excitement? Yeah, okay. It is a pure fuzz by Skeindeer knits. I did my usual thing on this. I went by the gauge and found a pattern to suit. So viewers who were here a few months ago, I'm trying to work out how long ago, but a few months ago, may remember that I had started to create a magic ball of 4-ply fingering weight scraps. And this ball had got quite sizable. And there's all sorts in here. There are some, this pink here is a mini skein from Chintz Pine Knits. I think there's another mini here. There are lots of leftovers, and some of these are quite brightly coloured. And these are leftovers from the brightly coloured crochet items I was making last year. And I decided to ply them, where's my cone gone? Aha! With some grey boucle that I have that is going on forever. I often wear the grey cardigan with the rainbow stripes. That's made of this stuff. This cone is getting a lot smaller. I mean, it was. But as you can see, there's still quite a bit left. So I had 2 strands of this and 1 strand of the different coloured yarns, or the magic ball, and I plied them together using my spinning wheel. Could have just held them together and knitted, but I just wanted them plied. I wanted very much a mild effect. When you are holding yarns together and they haven't been spun together or plied together, you can get quite a patchy effect, which might be what you're looking for, but I wanted something more, I can't think of the word. I wanted it the same all the way down. There is a word for that. You're probably shouting it at me now. But anyway, words, English language, not always my strong point. So I've just spotted a little sticky outy thread which I'm poking back through. So 3 plies of yarn all plied together, 2 of this, which is quite a fine yarn. It's because it's boucle, it has a kind of odd texture. The cardigan that I showed you earlier with the stripes, the strips rather, that were then put together, I had used a bit of this and it was flaring out, so when you knit with it, its tension was coming looser than regular 4-ply. But it is quite a fine yarn. So 2 of those, 1 different colours from the magic ball, and I did a gauge swatch to find the fabric that I like. So this is my usual thing. I do a gauge swatch, do a gauge swatch, find the pattern that matches in my library or online. Halfway through the sweater, realise my gauge swatch has been lying and adjust accordingly. Because gauge swatches tell lies, we know this. This is Pure Fuzz by Skeindeer, and it's a fairly simple shape. It's a contiguous construction, so it's top down, and you end up with like a sort of saddle shoulder effect there. So top down, split for the sleeves like you would a raglan, just knit down. The original pattern, and I'll put a picture of it here, is more of a cropped sort of length, and it's quite oversized, designed to be worn quite kind of loose, and it's a cosy sweater. It's one that you kind of sling on when you've got to walk the dog or it's a bit chilly indoors. It's one of those kind of sweaters. I made it slightly longer, not really a great one for crop sweaters, so I made it a little bit longer, but apart from that, pretty much followed the pattern as is. Because I realised my gauge was slightly out, I did fewer rows on the sleeves, but also I think it might be quite a long, when I say long sleeve I mean over the edge of the wrist, whereas I tend not to wear them beyond that length. So yeah, no, there we go. So this is Pure Fuzz. Now I used about 3,000 metres of yarn, but bear in mind I had 3 strands held together. So the overall sweater takes just over 1,000 metres of yarn. It's on a fairly loose gauge. This was on 5mm needles, and I'm rather happy with it. The grey has really pulled all these colours together, because this is a mixture of all sorts. We've got mohair, we've got wool, we've got, I don't think we've got any cotton in here, but we've got kind of wool blends, we've got pastel colours, we've got brights, we've got muted shades, we've got everything. So it could have looked like a dog's breakfast. Some might feel it does. Personally I don't. But the grey has really pulled everything together, and I think the plying it worked for what I was hoping to achieve, because it just means that means it's all really mixed through, which is exactly what I was after. So there we go, a finished object, for goodness sake. And yeah, Pure Fuzz by Skeindeer. I made the largest size, used just over 1,000 meters of yarn, in my case ×3. Cozy sweater. So yes, I am happy with that, and I will no doubt leave it in here for a few weeks like I normally do, because I forget stuff and then I'll discover it and start wearing it when it's chilly. We know how it works. The chatter thread prize for June wasn't claimed, so I have redrawn it. So in case you've wandered off into your own imagination by now, I'm going to highlight your attention to the fact that you could win a prize. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. So I've redrawn the chatter thread. So this was between posts 409 and 544 on the thread, and the redrawn post is number 515, and actually it had a picture in it of this shawl and some yarn chicken, and the winner is G Guess from Kentucky. So congratulations. If you'd like to get hold of me on Instagram, Ravelry, email, all the details are below of how to get hold of me, then I will send you a pattern prize up to a value of $10 US. So congratulations, thanks for being part of the make along, and please claim your prize. If you could do that by the 25th of August, please, that would be appreciated. Otherwise I'll have to draw it again. So please claim your prize, thank you. So I think that's all the done stuff. I mean, I've got a few works in progress depending on where I knit. So in the car I have the ritual shawl, at my desk I have my rocket tee, and these are things I knit in specific circumstances. Future plans, I do have another crochet boxy on the hook. I was full of enthusiasm after making that rainbow one last month. I really loved it. I thought, oh, do you know what, I'm going to make another one because yay. And I've got about that far on it and sort of lost the energy for it a bit. So it's there. I went back to this. This had actually been started some time ago and I lost the energy for this at the time, so I decided to pick it up and ploughed through it. And it was a quick grower because it's on 5mm needles, you know, it's big. Yes, I've got a crochet boxy on the go. I have some small projects to make. My sister would like a pair of fingerless mitts. My great niece, I'm going to make her another jacket because she's growing, because apparently that's what children do. Rude. And I've also found out, I was spending time with some neighbours last weekend, and found out that one of our neighbours' daughters is due to have a baby in a couple of months' time. So I'm going to do a little bit of knitting for them. So yeah, small things on the go, but what I really want is to start another sweater. Now I'm not going to go into details because I have an idea in my head and I'm not sure it's coherent enough yet to explain it. So I'm going to get it started, and next month hopefully you'll see it and it will be explained. And it's a combination of patterns and it's just me making it up as I go along as usual. But that's okay. It's all part of the fun. It's only knitting, it can always be unpicked. It's only crochet, it can always be unpicked. If it goes wrong, it can be taken back out and the yarn can be reused. So we like to try these things. Some work, some don't. Fingers crossed that this will. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, I'm going to start that because that's where my kind of enthusiasm is. I think I'm going to go back to my rota of patterns because I can have a habit of kind of putting things aside, as I did with the sweater I've just shown you, as I've done with the boxy, and you do then lose the momentum, and it's hard to kind of crank back up and to keep the pattern in your head, because if you haven't touched it for quite some time, then you're going to lose the flow of what it looks like, what you're supposed to be doing, and it feels like starting again halfway through, which it basically is, and it feels like harder work. So I'm going to go back to my rota of listing my live projects and then working through them one at a time. So hopefully I don't get stuck in a rut with anything, but it will keep the flow of everything. That's the plan. I find that works for me. I don't necessarily have all of my works in progress on that, because some things, I've got a blanket that if the weather is as warm as it has been, I'm not going to make, because it's getting to the size where sitting on my lap it's just going to be far too warm and uncomfortable. So that isn't going onto the rota, but these little projects and the sweater that I want to do and the crochet boxy, they can all go on that system, so I can make a little bit of progress with everything, hopefully. So we're at the end of July. August is coming. I'm going to take a little bit of time off, a bit like I did back at Easter, so what was that, 4 months ago. I find with my work, conducting funerals is a privilege, it's an honour, and I get to hear all these people's stories and it's fascinating, but they kind of get stuck in my head, and I find I get a bit kind of muddle-brained with it, because I've been taking on all this information, and this person was evacuated there and that person did that job, but this one wants that music and that one wants that poem, and it can get a little bit much in here. And I always say this isn't a good place to live at the best of times, so when it's feeling overfilled, I need to take time off and just not do funerals and kind of clear my head a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of time off this month, which of course means crafting time. Himself is away quite a bit. I have booked some time off for when he's home, because I felt I ought. He's away doing lots of sporting things, watching cricket, watching golf. I think there was going to be some rugby, but I'm not sure that's happening. That might be later in the year. He's not here much at the moment. A lot of it is stuff that was postponed from last year that's now happening this year. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's doing these things. It does feel a bit, I feel a bit abandoned at times. It's a good job the dog's here, really, because otherwise I'd be very lonely. No, I wouldn't. I'd just get on with it. But yeah, so he's not here much, but he does have an entire week when he's going to be here. Let joy be unconfined. So I'm going to take some time off this month, spend hopefully with him, and just kind of pottering around doing stuff. Apart from that, we are hopefully doing some drumming events. Long-time viewers will know that I belong to a drumming group, and we take part in carnivals, parades, bonfire processions, sorts of things like that. We had one rehearsal, which we did on the beach, and the plan was to do some of it on the beach, some of it indoors. There's a room that we use above a pub, and one of our group, after our rehearsal outside, our practice outside, tested positive for COVID. Now obviously we wish them well. As far as I know, they're doing fine, but it then made us think, oh, what are we doing? So the idea is at the moment we're only going to practice outside, but then that relies on reasonable, or at least dry weather. So we had one rehearsal, the next week we couldn't do, we'll see what's happening. There is meant to be a carnival early in August, which we're supposed to be leading out. When we practiced, we actually did pretty well, considering we hadn't played together for well over a year. We did pretty well. Some of our pieces are more complicated, but a lot of them are quite simple. And we kind of stuck to the simple ones. And as long as you start at the same time, finish at the same time, and are going roughly the same pace as everyone else, we were doing fine. So hopefully we'll get to do some stuff. I mean, most of the events that we do are outside. It's whether or not these events are still going ahead. And that's the big question at the moment. Certainly in my town, looking at COVID numbers, they are shooting up at the moment, but nationally there is a reduction. So we'll have to see what happens, and we can We can only do what it's legal and safe to do. So we shall see on that one. It would be lovely to be drumming, but if we're not and we have to wait some more, we have to wait some more. That's fine. What else is happening? Don't think much else is happening. This is probably a relatively short podcast. Phew, you all cry. It's just been very busy with work, and that's reduced the crafting time that I've had. So less content, shorter video, very simple. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your comments, all your observations, for liking, subscribing, for all the things. I am so appreciative of you all. You're all stars as far as I'm concerned, so thank you very much. Look after yourselves, keep well. I will see you Friday if you watch the vlog, or at the end of August for the next podcast. And yes, G-Guess, please get in touch to claim your pattern prize. And keep well, everyone. I hope that whatever you're doing, you're having fun, you're feeling safe, and you're looking after yourselves and keeping as well as you can. So happy crafting. Find joy in all things if you can, and look after yourselves. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.